It's a rabbit hole. After only 4 moves, there's more than 300 billion options to consider. We can take you very close to the edge.
Who taught him to move like this?
He taught himself. If I take the pieces away, he just keeps playing in his head day and night.
I can tell you he has great potential.
American chess prodigy Bobby Fischer became the youngest ever grandmaster in the history of the game.
Where do you go from here? I want to play the Russians. They're the best in the world, and I'm going to beat them all.
Fischer Mania is taking the country by storm.
My next guest, Mr. Bobby Fischer.
Mr. Fischer?
Are you a patriot? There are people in high places who take an interest in any confrontation with the Russians.
I don't really care about politics. You're the one man in this country who could put up a fight.
Bobby Fischer is in Iceland for his match with the world champion Boris Spassky. It's the chess version of a 15-round heavyweight prize fight.
I'm not playing till all my conditions are met. I want at least 5 feet between me and the audience. It's almost like I hear their thoughts.
Bobby has problems.
Bobby is displaying signs of paranoia and delusional psychosis.
Hey! I'm coming for you! I'm coming for you!
Pawn Sacrifice is really the Bobby Fischer story. Bobby Fischer was a chess master who went up against Boris Spassky, the Soviet Union's chess master and world champion, in 1976. You know, and in a weird way, it's like the Cold War is back, at least on screen. Let's hope not in real life. You have this movie right now, and then next month, Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies opens.
I read your article in Sports Illustrated. You told the truth about the Russians.
Yeah, that's right, I did.
Don't you see this? Soviet invasion to hit California surf. World's greatest chess players to visit U.S.
Yeah, I saw that.
They say, oh, it's just a game for fun, hand of friendship, all that crap. But you know the truth, they're laughing at us. They think that chess dominance proves Soviet intellectual superiority over the decadent West.
I don't really care about politics.
They're using chess to say, screw America.
Yeah, I'm about the game, you see. 2 guys at a board, one makes a move, the other makes a move, and that's it.
I'm a chess fan myself. I'm also hopelessly patriotic.
The way Tobey Maguire plays Bobby Fischer, and this seems to be true to that character, is he was really difficult. And you can tell how difficult he is because anyone who knows sort of the history of Bobby Fischer after he sort of disappears off the scene knows that he made some really interesting choices, and he became actually, as a young Jewish boy growing up in Brooklyn, he wound up being fairly anti-Semitic and pretty paranoid. I mean, so I think one of the things that's really interesting about this film probably is the way in which history and personal history work against each other. Fischer has bouts of paranoia. But so did the nation, so did both nations, the Soviet Union and the United States, for good reason. So it's almost like, what is that joke that is like, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not sort of, after you sort of thing. If Pawn Sacrifice looks like one of those prestige projects that maybe goes a little slowly for the sort of action, coming out of the action-packed summer season, it may be. It's definitely a prestige project. There's some very good acting in it. It's like Liev Schreiber is very good. Tobey Maguire is good. Peter Sarsgaard as a priest that had played against Bobby Fischer and is sort of his counselor, coach for a while, is very good. So it has all those components. It's also pretty serious. I mean, it's a very well-paced, thoughtful film about a pretty dark time. The things that sort of spruce it up, if it needs sprucing up, are the period pieces, the sort of production design, the sort of energy of that period of time when they go up against each other, which is the early 70s. There's a lot going on in the U.S. at that time. So you have that kind of energy working against the darkness and the anxieties of the Cold War period, and this sort of suspicion about the Soviet suspicion about us, and our deep and appropriate suspicion, it turns out, in some ways, about them.
Значит так, если я ему проиграю, вы ему дадите уехать с этого острова целым и невредимым. Ты же
не виноват, что этот американец псих.
Да никакой он не псих. А если вы так считаете, значит, он вас обвел вокруг пальца так же, как всех остальных. Он знает, что если ему придется играть со мной, я его уничтожу, раздавлю. Вот он мессилирует, чтобы избежать неизбежного. Я его не выпущу, я его на обе лопатки положил. Я на 2 очка впереди. Попался. Передайте Фишеру. Я с ним хоть взял для пинг-понга сыграю. Хоть в сортире, где угодно. Он от меня не уйдет. Так ему скажите. Попался.
I think if you're not a history buff, you could still find a lot that's really interesting in this film in terms of its depiction of mental illness and how it works in a person's life, and a person who seems otherwise like beyond functional, sort of exceptional in a lot of ways. And I think that this winds up being a continuation of a theme that started or has gone on in this past summer. And that's really an interesting thing. You know, whenever something builds like this, I think that's almost the most interesting things about movies and popular culture is the way in which you reinvestigate issues in a new way. So it's not the Cold War stuff that seems so new, though it's back on screen. It's really the stuff about Bobby Fischer's difficult personality, which is tinted and shaped by some really, probably some imbalances to some degree. That's a really interesting thing to struggle with. And I think that when movies are sort of taking on these stories again, that's the new stuff they're bringing, right? What was different about Imitation Game? Because they really were sort of looking at Turing's sexuality through, in part, a lens that is very contemporary. And I think the same thing about Pawn Sacrifice to some degree. It is both a period piece and it is a piece that we're going to receive as people who think a little bit more about what mental illness is. So Bobby Fischer isn't just a temperamental genius, he's something else, and someone who is actually, I think, suffering a fair amount in this film. And I think that it's not meant to make you sort of, oh, boo-hoo, Bobby Fischer, so much as just to understand a character better. What more can we ask for from a film about a character is that we grapple with their difficulties. That is almost worth the price of the ticket, I think.